Good morning. Thanks for being here today. My name is Rebecca Pearl. I am with AARP Elder Watch, and we are going to talk about checking your credit today. Before we get started, I'm going to just give a little information about AARP Elder Watch. We're a 20-year-old partnership with the Colorado Attorney General's Office, doing education and outreach across Colorado, like these presentations. We also are doing presentations in person and literally all across Colorado. We have a volunteer staffed fraud victim support helpline and a peer-to-peer financial counseling program. So if you are in need of financial knowledge, assistance with financial knowledge, or with fraud victim support, you can give us a call at 800-222-4444, option number 2. This is interactive, so feel free to ask questions and take notes. I do have handouts if you would like them, and this is not financial advice, so please consult with a lawyer or certified financial planner before making any final decisions. So oftentimes people are, I will talk about credit reports and people automatically start talking about their credit score. And these are two different things. They're based on one another, but they're two separate things. So credit scores are used by lenders, including banks, credit card companies, and car dealerships, to make decisions about whether or not to offer you credit and what those terms will look like. So how much interest you're going to have to pay, how long, etc. There are many different types of credit scores calculated in many different types of ways, but the two most common are FICO and Vantage scores, and those are normally what's used for those lending decisions. A credit report, on the other hand, is the historical record of how you've managed your finances. And that includes how and when you pay your bills, how much debt you have, and how long you've been managing credit accounts. And so the credit report is basically the record of everything you've done to manage your finances, and then that is used to calculate your credit score, along with another variety of different information, including payment history, mix of credit, credit utilization, new credit, and credit history length. And so your payment history is going to be, are you paying your bills on time? The more bills you have paid on time with especially meeting those minimum balances, the better lenders are going to see you as a person to potentially lend to. Credit mix, what do your various credit accounts look like? Do you just have credit cards? Do you have credit cards and loans? Do you have a healthy mix of all of the above? That is going to make a difference also in how much they lend to you and what those terms look like. Credit utilization is how much of your extended line of credit do you use? And so the key is to usually stay below 10% on credit utilization. If you are using one credit card to make all of your purchases, you're likely going to have a very high credit utilization on that, and then maybe lower on other accounts. And credit utilization is pretty hefty on that calculation and can bump your credit score up or down depending on how much credit you use that month. That really will change it. New credit, when was the last time you opened an account? What is that account? Have you been opening many accounts at the same time? Those things, that history is also going to go into calculating that final score. And then credit history length, how long have you been being lent to? So improving your credit score is a fairly complex process because we just see the score, we just see that number come up, and we don't know exactly what is causing the changes to happen, but we have a pretty good idea, right? payment history is going to be number one. So are you paying those bills on time? If you're paying those bills on time, then you're likely going to have a slightly higher score. Number two is credit utilization. This chart right here shows what the value of each of these categories in calculating that final score. So you can see payment history and credit utilization are significantly higher than the other three. So paying bills on time, paying down any sort of debt, and making outstanding payments are also going to boost that score. Disputing inaccurate information on your credit report. And we're going to get into just credit reports and disputing information on them, etc. very soon, but that also is going to make a difference. You especially don't want to be responsible for debt that you actually haven't incurred. And then especially if you have taken out a few different applications for credit, just limit new credit requests for a little bit, and that should also cause a little bit of a boost in your score. So the components of a credit report are a little bit different than the components of a credit score. A credit report is going to list personal information, account history, negative information about accounts or debts, and then inquiries on your credit. So when you apply to rent a property and they do a credit check, that is going to show up on your credit report. Or when you are buying a car, they do a credit check to give you a loan, that's going to show up on your credit report. What's not going to show up on your credit report is when you open like a credit card at the store, or make purchases, or even apply for new credit. Those likely will not show up on your credit report. And then there are a variety of things that are listed on your credit report, but these things should not impact your credit report or score. And that's checking your credit score. This is a pretty common myth that checking your credit score will lower your credit. That is not true. A hard inquiry into your credit might lower your credit, but that's different than actually checking that score. Any sort of rent or utility charges, those shouldn't be reported to the three major credit bureaus. So usually those should not be listed or impact your credit. Any sort of change in your salary or wages should not impact your credit report either. Your income or bank balances shouldn't be listed, and they will not impact that final score or report. If they are listed, then there's likely some error going on, and you would want to contact the creditors. Okay, so this is new, the next one, the next two. Medical debt that's unpaid for less than a year cannot show up on your credit report. So if you do have medical debt that's appearing on that report, but it has been less than a year, then you can, sorry, I realized the camera moved. Then you can dispute that and it shouldn't be listed. And then paid medical debt also should not appear at all on your credit report. Lastly, education. Your education level should not impact your credit score or anything on your credit report. It's not listed, and it should not be a part of the profile of how they determine how much credit to give you. Okay, so checking your credit report is super duper important because both credit reporting agencies and just people in general make mistakes, right? And sometimes credit reporting agencies mix up the credit files of people with similar names. So making sure that accounts that are listed on your credit report are yours is going to be key in making sure you're not a victim of identity theft, and also everything that's on there isn't negatively impacting you, especially if it's not an account that you've opened. So checking your credit report can save you money in that way. And then errors on your credit report can also be a red flag that you're a victim of identity theft. If you pull a credit report and all of a sudden there are 6 accounts that you've never seen before that are listed with $30,000 balances each, that's a red flag that you're probably a victim of identity theft, and you're going to want to start to work right away to get that resolved. You are entitled to 1 free credit report per year from each of the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Because of COVID, and so this has been happening for the past 2 years, the credit bureaus have been offering free reports every single week to US consumers. You can get all 3 of your reports every single week if you really want to. I don't think it's necessary to check your credit report that often, but if you really would like to, you can definitely go ahead and do that. But in normal times, when you can't get your credit report for free all the time, we usually recommend checking your credit every 4 months and checking with 1 bureau once every 4 months. So you can spread out the 3 free reports throughout the year. It's a good idea also to check your credit report 2 to 3 months before a large purchase, because if there's any sort of errors that might impact your purchase power, you do want to get those cleared up as well. So how to check your credit report? There's a few different ways to do this. It is definitely 100% easiest to go online to annualcreditreport.com. There is a button that says get started, request credit reports now. You click that button and it gives you a few questions to verify your identity. Then you're able to choose 1 of 3 of the credit reports to view. You can choose all 3 to view, but it does take you back to the home screen when you're ready for the next one. So when you're viewing 1 credit report, you're going to want to either print that or save it as a PDF on your computer, because once you exit out of the credit report, you won't be able to go back and see it. You'd have to do the request over, and it can cost if you try to get all 3 one time in the week and then exit out of them and then can't go back and then do it again. So trying to make sure it doesn't cost anything by just saving them. And then you can also look at all 3 next to each other, make sure they all look the same, that there's not any errors on one that isn't on the other. And that's going to be the best way to just make sure there's really nothing suspicious going on, and all of your accounts and your financial health is in order. So you can also call and order them online. They usually do ask some identifying questions to verify who you are, who you say you are. That phone number is 1-877-322-8228. And it does take about a week, probably a little longer, just because of all the mail shortages we've been seeing, to arrive, and they do come in the mail. You can order by phone. That is absolutely a valid way to go. It just is going to be a little bit of a longer process. And then you can also write to the credit report request service. You fill out the credit report request form, which if you would like that form, I'm happy to send it to you via email or mail. And then you mail that form to Annual Credit Report Request Service, PO Box 105281, Atlanta, Georgia 30348. And then that does take about 2 to 3 weeks for those credit reports to get back to you. Sometimes they do ask you to send personal identifying information, again, so you are verifying who you are, who you say you are. And if you are going to send that via mail, I would recommend sending it certified, so that it got to the right person and it didn't get lost in the mail or in the hands of someone that shouldn't have that information. So we are going to go over credit protections because there are a few different types of credit protections available to most consumers, and they can be really helpful in just having peace of mind when it comes to identity theft and just keeping tabs on your financial accounts. So the first credit protection, and probably one of the most common, is the fraud alert. This is basic, and what it does is it alerts you if anyone attempts to open an account in your name in any sort of credit, and that lasts for a year. It is renewable, but you have to renew it every single year. It is not permanent. So if you're forgetful like me, maybe this is not the right protection for you, just because you do have to remember every single year to put that back on. So that leads to the next one, extended fraud alerts, and this lasts for 7 years, but it is only available to consumers who have been victims of identity theft, and it does require a report be filed with identitytheft.gov or the police. It does the same thing as the fraud alert. It alerts you if someone tries to open an account in your name, but the credit bureaus are also able to take your name off of marketing lists for credit and insurance offers for 5 years, unless you ask to stay on, but any reduction in junk mail sounds great to me. Of course, we do not want you to be a victim of identity theft, but if that is the case, this extended fraud alert might be the way to go. And then the last one is credit freezes. And this is personally my favorite because it prevents lenders from accessing your credit report with authorization. So that means no one's able to apply for an account in your name using your information. They just can't open a credit account because lenders want to view your credit report before they grant you a loan. And so if they're not able to view that report, they're not going to grant you credit. So it is a great protection method, especially if you are worried about being a victim of identity theft, have been a victim of identity theft, or you just don't, you don't need to take out a line of credit for a while. This is probably going to be the way to go. The freeze it's permanent, but you can temporarily lift it or permanently lift it. You set a password with the credit bureaus, and that's what you use to lift it. And there are ways you can lift it temporarily for like a week or a few days if you're having some credit inquiries happen, and then it automatically will go back on, or you can, decide to lift it permanently whenever you would like. It does not affect any of your already existing credit accounts. None of these do. It does not affect your credit score. It's just an added piece of protection. And these are going to be placed through the 3 major credit bureaus. So that's Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. You can call one of them and tell them I'm placing a fraud alert or I'm placing a credit freeze, and they will say that they're going to notify the other 2, but the only way you can be sure that they're notifying the other 2 is to notify the other 2 yourself. So while they are saying that they're going to notify the other 2, things happen where that doesn't necessarily always occur. And so for peace of mind and just best way to protect yourself, be sure to get in touch with all 3 credit bureaus. It will take a little longer, but it is definitely worth it. So some resources, mainly just the contact information for the 3 major credit bureaus, and then Innovis, which some people also use. They are another credit reporting agency that's used, I would say, significantly less than the other 3. So there's the websites, which I guess didn't copy over. I apologize about that. All the phone numbers are listed as well, and then information for writing to the credit bureaus. If there's any sort of disputes that you need to make. If there's any sort of like incorrect information on your report, you might need to write to the credit bureaus, but otherwise calling them usually should solve the issue. And if you do find incorrect information on your credit report, what you're going to want to do is call the creditor that issued that line of credit or that loan, deal with them directly, and then you're going to want to contact one of the 3 major credit bureaus or all 3, depending on where it's listed on your credit report. So we have a few minutes left, and I am happy to take questions if there are any. If not, we have another presentation tomorrow at 9:30 Mountain Time. We will be talking about preparing for end of life. Not the most fun topic. It's pretty sad, but it is very important. So please feel free to come join us for that. And otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.